I don't know, so I'm going to put just a portion of it in there to start and then kind of fold it in. We've got 2 cups of chocolate chips. Going to add to that a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Then that'll get warmed in the microwave until, or on a double boiler if you've got that, until it's warm and melty. We're making chocolate mousse that then we're going to freeze dry. Heavy whipping cream, chocolate, milk chocolate or dark chocolate chips. Okay, it's getting warmer, but I'm going with that still not melted. So I'm going to give it a little more heat. So that feels slightly warm. By the way, I've never made this before. It's usually delivered to us as nature intended. That looks like it's melted. It's not terribly warm still. It looks like I think it's going to be all warm enough.
They're melted.
128. And it seems like it's just about all melted. I mean, I can see still little bits, but they're going away. So I'm going to assume that was enough warmth. And then what does one do with it next? Okay. I don't know if that's too far or what. So, bowl 2. So now, whip it good. Soft peaks, or is that still a little too soft? Okay, I'm gonna call that. This is pre-measured out, 1/3 cup of powdered sugar and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And that gets mixed into it. And again, never done this, so I have no idea. I'm trying to follow somebody else's instructions. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a stir so it doesn't go flying all over when I turn it on. There we go. And then go to hard peaks. Okay, that's, I think, there. Okay, next step. And I think I might have ruined the chocolate. I think I may have overheated it. Again, I don't know what it's supposed to look like, but that doesn't seem right to me. Well, worst case is I ruined it all and I'll have to eat it all. Okay, next one. Cream cheese.
8 ounces.
Okay, 8 ounces of nearly room temperature cream cheese. So I've got the 8 ounces of cream cheese, 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Gonna add that to it. And add a tablespoon of vanilla. Okay. So then I'm going to mix this until it's smooth, and I'm not going to worry about the fact that there's a little bit of chocolate on there because it's all going to get together in just a minute. Need to get this good and smooth. Okay, then what do I do with that? And again, I'm concerned about that, but oh well, can't change that now. So all this will go into there, and then I'll whip that together. That looks nice and smooth. That looks like I broke it. The idea is I've got heavy cream, chocolate, sugar, and I'm going to freeze dry it as a mousse. And if this doesn't come out as perfect as all the mousses I've had of this kind before, it's my sister's fault. Okay, that's actually looking very good. Surprise! I need to fold that into it, it says. So I'm going to put just a portion of it in there to start, and then kind of fold it in. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of it in now. I've got it lightened up some. So I want to stir it probably until it's just makes it to evenly mixed. And I'm going to go ahead and use the spatula some. Okay, that's doing a nice wipe around the edge. And then I can either put it in a ziploc and pipe it, or I could spoon it. And I think piping it would be way faster. So I'm gonna put that all into a gallon ziploc so it can be piped. Okay, so now get that. I'm going to do the very tip off, a very small tip, and then going to do little drops. And you can choose the size, of course. So just trying to make real quick little pieces. And again, this is heavy whipping cream, chocolate, powdered sugar, vanilla, a little bit of salt, a little bit of cornstarch in there. Anyway, the important thing is chocolate and fat. And these are light and fluffy, so probably won't end up with 10 pounds of these in a batch. We'll get whatever we get. And some of the other flavors that she makes are just great. The lemon, cranberry, oh, just excellent. But they don't set up as fast and as hard. They do just fine with freeze drying, but before that they're not quite as ready to go. These trays will go to the freezer for pre-freezing. We'll finish them up. Okay, the freeze dryers had a chance to defrost after the apples. I did pull a couple of chunks out, a couple of chunks of ice out alongside with the little grabber things to speed it up and finish it real quick, because I want to get it cooling for the next batch. So I'm going to get the thermometer tucked underneath so it can tell me the barrel temperature underneath, and we'll get it chilling. And I want to make sure this gets pretty cold before we put the next thing in. It's the chocolate mousse, and they're kind of soft in the freezer, so I want to make sure this is nice and chilly before we put them in there. So we'll get it chilling, but it's not terribly warm inside right now. It's in the 60s. So it shouldn't take that long to get it down. Once it's down to about maybe 20, we can start putting things on the trays and getting them prepared to go in here. We'll get everything on the trays first, and may even put each tray back in the freezer to wait until we get all the trays loaded. Whereas usually I just set them on the cart and wait for them to be done in, it only takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But with these, we'll probably just stick them in the freezer while they're waiting. So we'll get the disc in place and get that shut. So I'm using custom to run it. That's what I always use. You could just press start and continue. Okay, it's showing that the tray temperature is 66 degrees right now, so it won't take too terrible long to get down to in the 20s. We'll be back to load stuff as soon as that's ready. So we'll move over to the other table and get things ready. One last thing on this is there's not a ring all the way around right now. It's missing a space here and right here. So I'm going to use my little palette knife, put it in there, and just give it a little twist. Okay, now the ring's all the way along here. Now I'm just missing this area. And okay, now we have a complete ring around there, and I won't have to worry about air getting through there and causing ice to form on the seal. Now we can get ready to load the trays as soon as that's cold enough. So in this batch, we're doing chocolate mousse and probably peanut butter chocolate chip cookies if we have space and need for weight. But chocolate mousse is light and fluffy bits. So once we get everything on the trays, we may not have space. If we have space, we'll load any remaining space with the peanut butter chocolate chip cookies. The mousse is going to go on first. Not going to get any weights until we're done because we want to work quickly and keep them frozen. So we're going to put the corrugated plastic sheets here, load them as quick as possible, move them to the freezer, and then we'll get the weights on the sheet afterwards. Okay, we're going to start with 2 trays at the same time, and there are already some on parchment. So we've got a starting already. They got piped right out on there. That way we get trays filled quickly, and then we'll pile more on top of that. Because once they're not really sticky right now, they're just slightly, but once they're dried, even if they're touching now, it won't be a problem of any kind. So I'm going to set these aside for now. Working so much better than I was expecting. Now we'll put them in the freezer for right now while we get the other ones done. Okay, and for your purpose, it probably doesn't matter which direction, does it?
Nope.
Could you?
Just stick them both on.
I was gonna say, could you just do this?
Yep, certainly could.
And then you could go this way?
Yep. I could cut it.
Okay. Either that or peel them off. Do you care?
I don't care.
So, you want to just do that then? And then fill in the rest with cookies?
Yep.
Okay. And the rest of these. My God,
What?
barbarian. They're facing 2 directions.
I don't care.
Every single one of mine is facing the same direction. You have
Mine's
this-
not.
They're like facing backwards.
Yes, they are. Every which way. So I just pull them out and I grab them and poof.
Oh my
I don't
God.
take much time.
Barbarian.
I don't care.
I didn't do these here. I only did these that they're all facing the same direction. The ones that are facing both directions, I had nothing to do with it. I objected strenuously. Ugh. Doesn't it make you just a little queasy? Ah, look at these. Every one of these facing the same direction up until here. Ooh. So then we'll get the weights of all of them and get them into the freeze dryer, because the freeze dryer is now, don't go away, 12 degrees and plummeting. Okay, tray 4. Yes, tray 4. Get that. And that is 2034. I'm going to just see if I can kind of put them in there, because it's not going to be ideal because there's nothing to hold it into that position, but that's where we're going to start. So tray 3 with the mix of mousse and cookies, 1645. Put the thermometer here. At least it will be kind of in the mousse areas, and it'll be protected from direct heat. Tray 2, 1723. And again, we'll try.
It looks cute.
And tray 1, 1700 even. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, we're going to be a little short, but that's not bad total for something as light as mousse. And you'd think a mousse would be heavy, but mousse are actually light. Mousse are very light. Okay,
Yeah,
so
every part of it.
that's ready to go in there. And it's chocolate and fat, and it freeze dries wonderfully and makes a great snack. All right, and we still have the seal ring around there. Now we don't. So we'll get those in there, and I'm going to start at the bottom. And the cookies are pretty tall, but they're nowhere near touching, not like a couple of the other items were. Okay, tray 2. And that looks like it's down around 10 degrees still, so we got them in there quickly. Still nice and chilly.
Yeehaw!
All right. Wow, and again, I mentioned that before. Once it's cold, that seal goes clunk instead of squish. The seal, even though it's silicone, when it gets that cold, it still is less flexible. And that's part of why I like to make sure that it is sealed and has a ring all the way around it to make sure that it seals when it goes to start vacuuming. I don't like it to start pulling any air through there. Think of the temperature of the air. If you've got 70-degree air out here and it's negative 40 in there, you've got 110 degree difference on the air. You don't need things that are 110 degrees hotter going in there. Yeah, you just want to make sure you have it sealed before you start, before you walk away from it. If it's going to start overnight when you're not there, you want to make sure that that's sealed well. Well, maybe you don't. I want to make sure that that's sealed well because I don't want it pulling in other air. The cookies and the mousse are very low water items. They really won't take that much time to dry, and they won't put a big water load on it, so the oil won't get cloudy or anything. They are pretty tall on the trays because we stood them up, the cookies, so that will slow them down some for drying. But they'll still be quicker than many of the other things we've already been doing for this series. Because of the fact that it's almost 10 at night, we probably still won't be pulling these out until the morning after tomorrow. So see you in 2 days. Don't go away, we'll be right back. The chocolate mousse and the peanut butter chocolate chip cookies have been in final dry now for 8.5 hours. I've got it set for an 11-hour final dry now. And with these, it probably doesn't need it. It says the pressure is down to just 65 and all of the temperatures are up around 120. It's probably dry. It's probably been dry for a little while. It's been going for 25 hours total. And this is a low water item, so it probably is done. But we're not going to bag anything without putting it in for more time. And since it's late at night and we don't want to be bagging at midnight, we're going to give it a few more hours, then rewarm it in the morning and then check the weight again then. So we won't know if it's done until sometime in the morning. But right now, we're going to take it out, weigh it, and then put it back in. Maybe break a few pieces or something just for fun. We've got 2.5 hours showing still. Going to arrow down past all of that. Get the drain valve open. And we'll get them checked. And I might as well rotate them too, like I normally do. Okay, this is looking good. We'll get those weighed. 1387. So that's actually more water than I expected. That's 313 grams of water. and I'm going to switch it with tray 4, which is the cooler one. It's only 110 degrees. And it's 1977, so that would be 57 grams. And then I'll put this one up on top. Though again, maybe I should be rotating them to the middle. I think one of the viewers suggested that before, and maybe that's what I should do, is take the outside ones and put to the inside. So I'll have to look at that. Okay. Yeah, and these are amazing. They just are these little light dry things now. Okay, so then tray 2. Okay, $13.99, so that'd be 324 grams. And I'll switch that with tray 3. Yeah, it probably makes more sense to rotate them in the other directions though. Okay, 1501. And that's 144 grams loss. I think I am going to rotate them differently. And as the one viewer noted, especially since I mentioned that this one's cooler and this one's tends to be pretty warm, but these two middle ones are reliably warmer than the top and bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and do what the one other person had said. So I'm going to take the tray 1 and just move it down 1. And the tray 4. So tray 3 will come down 1. Tray 4 will come up 1. So what I'm doing basically is switching 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Okay, so let's get that closed back up. So I've switched 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 to put the outside 2 into the middle area where it's always seems to be warmer. The top one usually is just as warm, and sometimes the bottom one's the warmest one. But on a reliable, every time basis, the middle 2 are the warmest. I mean, you can count on those two. So we'll change them that way. Probably give them about, well, maybe 4 or 5 more hours, since it's going to be till tomorrow anyway. And last thing is, here's the water from the last batch, which was the apples with the sprinkle stuff on them. So more than 1 full gallon, just a little bit more than 1 gallon. So, going to go more dry time. I did check it, and it's closed. Continue, and I'm not going to wait for it to cool any more than that. And I'm going to put the time back on there. So it was at 3.5 hours to go. So that would give it 11 hours of dry time. There's almost no doubt that it's done, but there's also no downside really to giving it a little more time. So I'll give it another 2 hours. So that would be a total of 13 hours of final dry when that's done. So I gave it a total of another 5.5 hours, well, an additional 2 hours, so it has 5.5 hours to go now till it will be done again. That will be 3:30 in the morning, 3:45 in the morning. There's no chance that I'm going to be here to check it, so it'll stop. The vacuum pump will stop. This will stay under vacuum because of the check valve, and it'll stay frozen. All I'll need to do is rewarm it and then take them out and weigh them. I need to rewarm it because by the time I get to it, it will be somewhere between 40 and 60 below zero for those trays. If there's any moisture in the air, and there is, it will instantly condense on there. When I open the drain valve and air goes in, and when I take them out, all the air is going to all the moisture in the air is going to condense on that very quickly when it's 40 to 60 below zero. So I need to rewarm them at least to 60 to 80 degrees before I take them out to reweigh them. And I'd rather have them warm than cold to make sure that any moisture doesn't do that to it, because that would kind of ruin the... Okay, we'll be back tomorrow morning and check it. Okay, so it finished sometime during the night, and it's been chilling for probably more than 5 hours. The thermometers inside show negative 30 to negative 25 range, so it's quite cold, and we'll see what the temperature here shows after we restart it. But for now, we'll get it restarted, and we just need an hour or so, maybe even less, till the trays get rewarmed, and we'll be able to tell with the food thermometers if they're warm enough. So I'll press more dry, and it's never was open, so it's closed currently, and continue. And it's showing negative 39 right now, so it's definitely cold inside. Okay, we'll be back when it's warm enough. It's warm again. So everything's back up to temperature. The second tray up is actually the coldest right now, and it's almost 100 degrees. So we'll go ahead and stop it and check the weights. And it's had almost 7 hours more of dry time since we checked the weights last night. So even if it dropped very marginally, I wouldn't be worried about taking them out. They would have to drop fairly significant, multiple grams per tray, to be concerned about it. So we'll get them out, find out what they did. Arrow past the last of that. Okay, we've got the drain valve open, and going to unplug the timer for the oil pump filter. Okay, and see what we've got. And I have to remember the trays are in an odd order now. So tray 1 is the second one down. So tray 1 was 1387, now it's 1386. I'm going to call that good. Okay, tray 2, it was 13, let's see, 1386. It was 1399, and it is 1399. Okay, and tray 3. Okay, and make sure it's not touching anything underneath, and it's not. It went down a total of 3, so it's 1498. 3 in 7 hours is probably not a problem. And let's check tray 4. Well, and this one's still very heavy because there's so much. Okay, well, probably put the last 2 trays in and give them a little more, because that's 1968. So that's down 9 grams. It still probably all happened in those 7 hours, but the only way to find out is to put it in for a couple more hours and check it. So the ones with all the cookies, going to go ahead and put those in for a couple more. The mousse should be no problem. They didn't change, or changed a small fraction of 1 gram in that amount of time. So those should be able to be bagged. Well, these are in there, and this tray does have mousse on it, but it's going to be better just to leave those in there with the cookies, so we've got those weights. Okay, so put those back in the center 2 spaces. So I'm going to put this one on that tray. And I really don't expect to see these drop additional weight. But the only way to find out is to do it. So the other 2 can get bagged. These 2 can get in there for 2 more hours, and we'll check it. I'd rather have them in there for extra time than ever put 9 grams of water in a bag. Or if you split it up into multiple bags, you have 2 grams of water in each one. But still, Taking a little quarter teaspoon of water and just pouring it in the bag, bad idea. We'll make sure it's 100% dry before we continue. So I'm going to give it more dry time. Drain valve is closed. Continue. And I'm not going to worry about the cooling. I'll give it an extra quarter hour so we can check it in 2 hours. I don't expect it to drop. It's been 7 hours. It's still a relatively minor amount. And if it had only been 2 or 3, probably would have taken it out. But at 9 for a single tray, it's probably better just to leave it in and double check it. In the meantime, the other ones can get moved over and we'll take care of those. So we'll get the weights on the first 2 trays. So tray 1, and get the thermometers out of those. 1377. So it started at 945 grams, now it's 622. So it lost, that would be 323 grams of moisture out of that, which is kind of amazing because it seems like there's not that much water in it. And tray 2, 1388. So that one lost 335 grams for that tray. So just over 2 pounds per tray when they started. Okay, so then get any idea how you're going to bag these babies? Okay, so got the batch number, what it is, and the date that it went into the freeze dryer, and then kind of figure out whatever volume and for a snack like this, it's not like you're ever going to rehydrate these. You're going to eat them kind of like these.
Yum.
Oh, those are wonderful. You know what these would be good for? Chocolate coating. You could dip these in chocolate and have chocolate covered mousse. I guess I could break one open. So one of the bigger ones. So it's just mousse inside, you know, so there's yeah, it's a beautiful mousse in there, and dipped in chocolate these could be a really great thing, but they're really great this way. They melt in your mouth. Okay, I'm gonna let you bag those. We're at the last, well, within 4 minutes, so the heaters are already off. It's had 2 hours and 11 and a half minutes to dry now. Well, I'm gonna go down arrow past the rest of that. Drain valve open. And we'll check to see if it has any more loss. And I don't really expect that it did, but I have to check it. Okay, 1497, so that still went down. Oh, it's bouncing up to 8. So it went down within a very small fraction of a gram. So let's double check 4. Okay. So 1966, so it's down 2 in over 2 hours. Because it's only 1:30 and we need no defrost. Do you want that one out, or do you want to leave that one in there?
I'd leave them both in. Do you want one? Might as well leave them both, because it's got cookies too.
So I'm going to put these 2 back in. It seems like they're probably done, but again, you spend they're probably completely, thoroughly, 100% done. But you've spent all of that time, effort, money, everything to get them this far. It lost 2 grams in an hour. The other tray lost a portion of a gram because it was bouncing down to the next gram. There just doesn't seem to be a downside with giving it another couple of hours just to make sure. Whereas if there is some water still in there that's hiding in the little crevices and is just dying to come out, if you bag that, the water's in your bag. Doesn't make sense. So I'm going to give it a couple more hours and really make sure. Close the drain valve. Okay, drain valve is closed. More dry time. Closed, continue, and start. In the other quarter hour. It's back in there. I'm going to give it another couple hours and then we'll check it. The next batch going in there is going to be a super low water load. It's going to be just a few ounces. And this one's only a couple of pounds of water. So it's not like it's a big deal for the amount of water. And we're not going to defrost it between this batch and the next. Ideally, if you do these kinds of batches, the next batch we're going to do is the one that you should do before this one, because it has just a couple of ounces of water, and then this one only has a couple of pounds of water. It still works out about the same, but I would generally do the other one first and then this one, because then you really don't have to worry about the water sitting in there, or the ice in there. Okay, we'll be back in a couple hours again. So it's $14.88 for tray 3, $19.55 for tray 4. These trays get bagged. Got the rest of the mousse under here, and then the cookies. The chocolate mousse and the peanut butter chocolate chip cookies are all much drier now. Altogether, it lost over 2 pounds, or about 2 pounds of water. I think these started out as about 9 pounds and lost about 2 pounds of water. I have 14 quart bags and 20 pint bags. And so those are going to go in here until they go other places to be snacked on, I'm sure. So we'll get them moved into here. Yep, plenty of room. And then the next thing going in the freeze dryer is dry stuff. So we'll be loading that in just a few seconds, because we don't have to wait for it to defrost, because there's only 2 pounds of ice in there. So, and this next batch is going to be very dry. It's only going to lose a few ounces of water. So we'll get over there and get that going in just a few minutes, or on the next video for you. So we'll get these put away first. All right, so there's the apples, all nice and crunchy in the bags, and you can hear them crunch if you squeeze on them a bit. Right, so all of these are going to go in there now. We've got a mix of the chocolate mousse and the cookies, and they are going to be kind of a mix in here, the way I'm putting them in there. So as you saw with most of the earlier batches, most batches were 10 quart bags. Occasionally we used a few 2 quart bags or a few pint bags, but most of them were about 10 quart bags. With these batches, because of different use for different people, they end up being bagged considerably different. So you've got 3/4 of a cup of chocolate mousse in one of these, or you've got 1.5 dozen cookies in a bag. So it depends on who's using them. So there is no right or wrong way to bag them. So we still have 2 batches to go into here. Don't know if we're going to make it. Might have to rearrange things a little bit to get them to fit. And that's one of the things that happens if you're bagging in with a lot of smaller bags. But it's still worth it because you end up with how you want to be able to use them. Okay, so that's it for that one. And the vacuum pressure, at least it's not negative. We don't owe the universe pressure. Of course, everybody's entitled to my opinion.